بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We move on to a new chapter that also deals with transactions, and this chapter is the chapter of Ar-Rahn. And the word Ar-Rahn can be translated into mortgage, and it also can be translated into a sort of a pledge. And what is Ar-Rahn? When people borrow from each other, sometimes they want guarantees so that they would authenticate this loan with something that can be as a backup in case the person who borrowed is unable to pay back. So this thing, which is usually more or equivalent in value to the loan, is kept with the one who is lending, so that once the time is due, I can get my money back, or if he refuses or declines or is unable, I can sell this and get my money worth and give him the balance in return. So it is sort of a backup, a guarantee, a pledge in versus or in exchange for a loan. And there are a number of hadiths covering this. The first hadith is the hadith of Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. Who will read that for us?
Narrated Aisha radiallahu anha, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam purchased food grains from a Jew on credit and mortgaged his iron armor to him.
So this hadith is an indication on a number of issues. Among them is it's permissible to deal with non-Muslims. Nowadays you get people say, oh, it's haram to buy and sell from non-Muslims. Why? Because they're the enemies of Islam, they do this, they do... Akhi, the Prophet bought from who? He bought something from a Jew, but he didn't have the money. He bought barley from a Jew, and he could not pay him because he did not have money. So he told him, I'll pay you later, while giving him his shield, his armor, as a pledge that if I don't pay on time, you can sell this and take your money out of it. So we can learn that it is permissible to deal with non-Muslims. Not only that, it is permissible to sell and buy to non-Muslims who deal in haram. Allah described them in the Quran, the Jews, that they deal in riba, in usury. Not only that, they consume the money of the people in unlawful means. Yet this did not prevent the Prophet ﷺ from buying and selling. So you learn the rules of Islam, the halal and the haram, through the Quran and the Sunnah, and also through the practice of the Prophet ﷺ. Other than that, we have what is known as al-bara'atul asliya. You remember yesterday we spoke about this? What is al-bara'atul asliya? That everything is halal unless proven otherwise. So one does not say, what's the ruling on using a cover of the color brown? Oh, this is haram. It has to be black or white. Why? Because the color mentioned in the Quran, there's no brown mentioned. So you can use only this. This is not correct, because the original permissibility of everything is mentioned to you is halal, unless proven otherwise. And this rule, if you abide by it, khalas, you feel comfortable. You have everything made easy for you. Someone tells me, what's the ruling on wearing this on your head? The Prophet did not wear it, alayhi salam. Yes, but the Prophet did not forbid it as well. So you take the original permissibility out of that, and you cascade this to all types of dealing with Muslims, non-Muslims, etc., unless proven otherwise. Now, the chapter deals with giving something in return for a debt. Now, does this fall under riba or not? The scholars say, no, it doesn't, because riba has to be money versus money, or something extra versus a loan. So if I take a car, I tell you, lend me your car for a week. and you say, okay, but you have to return it as 2 cars. Now this is not permissible because this is something you're borrowing. It's different if you're leasing. If I tell you, rent me your car, then I will rent you my car, and I tell you I will charge this much a day. This is leasing. I'm talking about borrowing. Borrowing is different. Now, pledging or mortgaging something is to guarantee your rights. So this is completely permissible. It is found in the Quran, in the Sunnah, in the consensus of scholars, and it shows us that to authenticate or to guarantee your debt, you are allowed to give something or ask for something. If the one who's giving the money, ask for something as a guarantee. Now the question is, can I use this thing? For example, I give you 1,000 euros and I ask you to keep your car with me. Can I use the car and go and come and until you pay me back? Scholars say no, this is not permissible. Why? Because this is considered to be interest. The 1,000 euro I gave you, I'm charging interest, and that is using your car. So if I give you my building as mortgage or as a pledge, and I take from you 100,000, can you live in that building, or can you rent it, or can you do things to it? The scholars say no, this is not permissible because this is benefit, this is interest over the loan. When is it permissible? They say if it is something that needs care. In this case, because of the care I'm giving to it, I can utilize it. Give an example. They say there are things that do not need maintenance, such as a building, a car that is parked in your garage until you bring me my money back. This does not need any maintenance. So am I putting such money in it? No. So this I'm not entitled to use. But if, for example, I give you 1,000 euros and you give me a cow, and you say keep the cow as pledge that I will return my money, and the man leaves. If I leave the cow without maintenance, without feeding, without watering, it will die. Then we have a problem. In this case, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that if the mortgage or the pledge is an animal, then because you are feeding that animal, you are permitted to ride it. And if it's an animal that is milked, because you're feeding, you're the one who's putting the grass and you're giving the hay or whatever it eats to the animal, then you may milk it in return or as an exchange. So this is the ruling of mortgage. Now, scholars say, what about if I have something as mortgage in my possession? A lot of the Muslims nowadays think that if I borrow from you 1,000 euros and I give you my wife's necklace, which costs 2,000 euros, and deadline is 1 month. If I do not return the 1,000 euros, he goes and sells it. He takes the 2,000 euros and puts it in his pocket. Khalas, he did not return it. Is this halal? It's not halal for 2 reasons. 1, you may not sell something that is not yours unless it's approved by me, the owner. So let's assume that I gave you the approval. If I don't pay on time, you have the right to do what? To sell it, but you cannot take except what is yours. And the balance, you have to return it back to me. You're entitled only for the money you had lent me, but you're not entitled to take any single penny extra because this would fall under the category of riba. And what about if I lend you money and you keep your cow or your camel or your sheep with me and it dies? What's the ruling on that? If it dies naturally, and scholars say there are 2 things. Either you have transgressed or you have been careless. If you were not any of the 2, then you have no responsibility. I have the sheep in my house and a burglar broke into my house at night and took the sheep and left. Do I bear any responsibility? No. because I'm doing you a favor. And this is not part of my own doing. However, if you keep your car with me as pledge and mortgage, and every day in the garage I turn it on and I start to drive and go to the seaside, and I had an accident. Who guarantees it? Who takes responsibility? I do, because I transgressed. It is not my right to use it, and I've used it without your permission, so I have to pay for it. Being careless is when I have a car which is given to me as mortgages or pledge, and I keep the windows down, I keep the key in the car, and the doors open, and it is on the street for everyone to come. In the morning I come, and the car is not there. It was stolen. Who is responsible? I'm responsible. Why? Because I was careless. So when he comes and brings me my money, I have to pay him what is equivalent to his car, or return his car, because I was entrusted with it. Among the things that go on with mortgage, can I sell the mortgage without his permission? No. Can he sell his own property without my permission? Meaning, I gave him 5,000 euros, he kept his car with me. Can he go and sell the car while it's in my garage? Why? Because the Muslims are held accountable in accordance to the conditions. I give you the money on the condition that you keep your car as mortgage in my possession, so that until you pay off the money. You cannot sell it, I cannot sell it until the debt is being settled. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah, we'll be right back. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. So we discussed some of the issues related to mortgage or to the pledge, al-rahan. So we open the floor for questions. If you have any question. Yes, the brother there.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
You said that you can give a cow in mortgage. You can give a cow.
Yes.
And if you are feeding it, you can use the milk. So is it compulsory on the person who is drinking the milk and using the milk to reduce the price of the loan?
You mean the owner of the cow or the one who has the cow?
The one who has the cow.
No, the loan is loan. I gave you 1,000 euros, you gave me your cow as a pledge. The Prophet ﷺ permits me to milk it and drink the milk. Has nothing to do with the loan. Because who's feeding the cow? Who's giving it grass? Who's buying the grass? I am. It's in my barn. I'm feeding it. I'm taking care of it. Therefore, I can milk it only. But this does not mean I can also slaughter it and make steaks for people. No, this is the only thing that is permissible for me. If it's a horse and I'm feeding the horse, and it's permissible for me to ride it, to go around with it. If it's a car and he tells me you have to take the car around the block every day, put some oil, put some gas, this is also similar, but not to go beyond that and travel from one area to the other and go sightseeing and using it excessively. This goes against the rule. Yes.
My question regards with the guarantee, like the third person taking the guarantee of repaying. That brother Abdullah will repay the loan I take as a guarantee, and if he doesn't, the third person will pay the amount. It's happening today a lot in the Indian subcontinent over here.
Are you saying that there is a third party involved?
Who's taking the guarantee of the repaying of the loan?
So he is like a mediator. He is like a broker. Instead of my car or my camel or whatever is kept with the person who had given me the loan, it's kept with a third party who is objective. There is nothing wrong in that, inshallah. I hope that is the case. Yes, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
I heard one scholar saying that Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam took loan from this Jew to feed some poor people. At that time, he didn't have any money, so he gave this armor as a mortgage and took grain from Jew. That was the reason he took a loan.
Either way, akhi, whatever the reason is, I've never heard this before. Therefore, if it's not authentic, if it's not through a hadith that is authentic, an authentic chain of narrators, we cannot take it. But even though if this is true and this was the reason, still this is not means of limiting our transactions with the disbelievers if we are going to feed poor people. This is a hadith by the Prophet ﷺ of his actions. So what can we learn from it? We learn from it that it is openly permitted for me to deal with the non-Muslims without any questions asked. It is permitted for me to deal with someone whose income is haram, like the Jews. Now, is this a recommendation? Leave the Muslims and deal with the Jews? Definitely not. We're just saying the borders of our dealings, what is right and what is wrong. The wrong is haram. We cannot do it. But if I see someone dealing with a Christian or a Jew, selling and buying, I would not say, Ya akhi, you should fear Allah. This is wrong. No, it's not wrong. The Prophet did it, alayhi salatu wasalam. Who's better in iman and knowledge, you or the Prophet? Definitely the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
Now the question which I am going to ask is asked by many regarding dealing with the Jews and the Christians or maybe the non-Muslims. Is it permissible to consume eatables from the Zionist companies knowing that a part of the money we spend in buying these products will be used against our own Palestinian brothers?
This is a common question, and it means that you should stop buying anything that is from outside of your country, whether it's from UK, from Europe, or from America, especially because they pay taxes when you buy things from them, and the government pays money to Israel. And this is a long loop. What you intend to buy and utilize is for your own good. It's halal. You cannot tell anyone it's haram. The Prophet ﷺ used to buy things that belong to the disbelievers. He bought things from the Jews, and he fought the Jews. So they were enemies of Islam. He bought from Byzantium, he bought from the Romans, he bought from the Persians. All of this used to come to Medina, and they know that the origin of this product is from a disbeliever country. And never the Prophet told them, don't buy it. And therefore, we may not exceed and say, Akhi, this is haram because the country does this or that. I'm buying something that is useful for me, and there's nothing wrong in that. If you want to refrain, this is up to you. Yes, Akhi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
My question is that there's a hadith which says that the Prophet ﷺ was narrating a story about two men, that one of them takes a loan and the other says the giver of the loan, the provider of the money, the one who is giving the loan, he says that who will call for a witness. So the other man says, the one taking the loan, he says that Allah is sufficient as a witness. So maybe this hadith can be used as a weapon for people who want to get away with witnesses.
Who want to?
Who do not want to provide witnesses for a loan.
Well, this, first of all, is an authentic hadith. It's reported in al-Bukhari. And the Prophet is telling us, alayhi salam, about an action between two that happened in pre-Islam era. One wanted money, the other provided the money but asked for a witness. And the man is his friend. So he said, Allah is our witness. So there's nothing wrong in that. The recommendation is to write certificate so that you can guarantee your money. And we know that the story goes on that the man, when it was due to pay the money, he could not find a boat to cross the river and go to his friend. And he was very anxious to return it on time. So he took a log of wood, he put the money inside and put a cork on it. And he threw it in the sea or in the river and said, oh Allah, pay for me. And the owner of the money used to go every morning to the riverside or to the seaside, waiting for a ship to come for his money, until he found a log. So he took it as a firewood. And he went and broke it, he found the money. A week or so later, the man found a boat, he came, and he brought another parcel of money. He did not tell him about the log, because he threw it just to be safe between him and Allah, not knowing that it would reach. So he came and he apologized, I'm sorry, here's my money. He said, why are you paying it? He said, this is your money. He said, no, Allah Azza wa Jal has paid. And this highlights the trust and the dependence on Allah Azza wa Jal, if you truly dependent on Him and you're honest, Allah will pay for you. But this has nothing to do with when you come in to borrow from me and I tell you, write a paper, and you say, no, 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 Allah Azza wa Jal is our witness. Otherwise, we will all lose our money because people are corrupt nowadays. People do not have iman in their hearts. They're not truthful. So this is not applicable. Yes, if you borrow money, the sunnah is you write it down. But if you do not write it down, you're not sinful for doing that. Yes, sir.
Lessee wants to take a flat on rent for 11 months period, and he pays lesser rent. I mean, he enters into contract for lesser rent than the market rate. This he pays by paying a heavy deposit, a security deposit. So there are two kinds of payment he makes: one the rent, monthly payment, and the heavy deposit. So the deposit that he paid, does it tantamount to riba?
So the question, if I understand it, there is a property for rent. If you pay a big deposit, they will give you a reduced rate. And if you refuse to pay a big deposit, they will charge you big amount of rate. This depends on the discount given. If it is realistic, then it is okay. For example, a property that charges 200 a month. They say if you give us 1,000 as a deposit, 1,000 means that it's almost 5 months worth. It's not that much. And we will give you 180 per month rent. This is acceptable. Unfortunately, nowadays, especially in India and elsewhere, I get a lot of questions like this. They say, you give us 5 million as a deposit or a loan or down payment. And you live in my home for a year, for 2, for 3, for 5. When you want to leave, I'll give you your money back. This is completely riba, because the amount you were supposed to pay for these 5 years is the interest on the loan of the million or the 5 million you have given as a deposit. It is not a deposit. It is considered to be a loan. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have. Until we meet next time, fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.